What's up, guys? This is Chris here, and today we're going to be talking about two of the most popular carry pistols currently on the market, and they happen to be very similar. We're going to be going over the venerable Glock 43X, one of the highest sold pistols of the last few years, and for good reason, versus the new kid on the block, the Shadow Systems CR920. Now, this is a video that was highly requested, so we're going to get it out to you. Before we do, though, I want to mention my Patreon supporters. Thank you guys very much. It's because of you guys we can afford guns and ammo and cool stuff on the channel. If you want to support the channel, if you like the unbiased content, that is the best way to do it. Just go to the link in the description and sign up. Also in that description is a link to a local shelter in Ames, Iowa. It's the YSS. Please get on that link and donate to those kids. And finally, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, TacPack. TacPack is like having a tactical Santa that brings you cool gear every month. They offer 2 monthly subscriptions, the standard for $50 and the plus for $130. The products in these boxes vary, but you can expect some badass gear like flashlights, parts, ear pro, med kits, and more from trusted companies like Magpul, Luth AR, Battle Arms Development, and many more. The value of these items far exceeds the cost of the box, and it's a fun way to try out some new hotness in the tactical world. Subscribe by October 31st and receive the November box. Use code HONESTOUTLAW and get at least $70 in free gear that will ship separately from your standard subscription. This means and you'll get over $325 worth of gear. Feel free to check the link in the description for more info. Now, the Shadow Systems versus the Glock 43X is going to be a pretty close comparison, but I think it's more than good enough to do simply because even though they look the same, I think the performance between the two pistols is a little bit different, and some of the features are different, and the price point is different as well. So let's go over the new guy first, the CR920 from Shadow Systems. Now, first off, the gun looks cooler than the stock Glock, because I do want to mention that this Glock is obviously not stock. If you guys watch the channel, you guys know I've changed this a little bit. It does have some slide serrations done to it. The sights are very similar to the stock formation, and then we also have just some grip tape and a Hive magazine release. Now, on the CR920, this is a completely stock gun. It comes looking like this, which is really nice. This is a 3.4-inch barrel, 9mm cartridge, striker-fired pistol with a polymer frame. It also comes with night sights right out of the box, very impressive night sights as well, and it does come with an optics mounting system for the Shield Holosun 507K footprint, which is really nice. It also comes with these slide serrations and these cool serrations up here. I like this a lot because it's a very small gun, so if you're going to put an optic on, it's going to be hard to get to the back of the gun to operate the gun, so it's going to be easier to come over the top and do that press check, and there's a lot of really aggressive serrations there, which I like, and that is one of the reasons why I did add it to my Glock 43. So I like that a lot. I like that it has the agency arms cut, very similar to the texture that I put here. This also comes from it right out of the box as well. So I think that's some pretty good value. We have good texture here. We have a serrated magazine release, which is nice. And then we have more of a flat face trigger than the Glock has, although it is a very similar setup. Now, the Glock 43, in my opinion, does have a better trigger, but they are both very similar. As you can see here, this looks like kind of a Vickers trigger or something like that. And the reset is a little bit long, but it is relatively nice. And you can get some pretty fast follow-up shots with this, and the trigger's pretty good for a carry gun. Around 7 pounds is a little heavy, but still not too bad. Now, one of the biggest advantages of the CR920 over the Glock 43 is going to be the capacity versus size ratio. So on the CR920, the revolutionary part about that is that it uses the P365, Shield Plus magazine technology. Enter the magazines here, and we're able to have a 10+1 in a grip that's very, very small, and then a 12+1 in a grip that's about the same size as the Glock 43X. So that is a huge advantage. So basically what you get is a shorter grip for the same capacity as you would get for the Glock 43X. You sacrifice a little bit of space on the 43X, but you do gain some things, so stay tuned, trust me. The conversation is not over yet. Now, we do have a hide beaver tail and some pretty cool, interesting serrations up here with Shadow Systems logo on it. And you get all that for the price of around $700, which isn't terrible, but it isn't necessarily good either. We do have a pretty good coating on the gun. It's a black nitride, and there is different versions of this gun available as well, including the Warpo, which I hear is maybe a hair better, but there is also different color barrels available and stuff like that. Now, enter the Glock 43X, which has a 3.4-inch barrel, almost the exact same, if not the same barrel length as the CR920 here, with a weight of only about 16.4 ounces, which is actually lighter than the CR920, and you can actually feel that when you hold them as well. Not only that, but mine is even lighter because it has the same serrations that the CR920 comes with stock, so my gun's actually probably around 16 ounces. So it's about 2 ounces lighter than the CR920. That's kind of cool. It is, however, bigger. So it does have a bigger grip. It has not only a thicker grip, but it has a longer grip as well. Now that is an advantage when it comes to actually shooting the gun, at least for me. I'm a fairly big guy. And the disadvantage to that, however, is when you do carry the gun, it does print more. And I can say that from experience because I do carry this. This is my holster, the Phalanx Systems, and I carry this a lot, actually. This is one of my main carry guns, and I can tell you that it does certainly print more than the Shield Plus, the P365, or definitely the CR920, simply because when it's sitting in the holster, you can see there's a lot more to poke up out of your shirt, and there just is a lot more visible. That being said, it's not necessarily more or less comfortable because the basic amount of the gun is the same. It's just a little bit more grip, so it doesn't really matter to me as far as a comfort level goes. One advantage to the larger grip, though, is going to be draw and actual shooting. So in my opinion, the draw is probably one of the most important facets of a handgun, simply because if you can't get the damn thing out, it doesn't really matter how reliable and accurate it is, right? It's just going to be stuck in the freaking holster. So we got to get a reliable grip that will be able to control recoil right out of the holster, and because of that, I really like the Glock 43 size. For me personally, it isn't too big. It's still a little bit easier to conceal than a Glock 19, and you definitely get a little bit more real estate there to grab and operate the pistol. There's a few other things I like about the Glock as well. So the Glock 43 definitely came out before the CR920, and the CR920 is obviously a clone of the Glock 43. But the Glock 43X, not only does it come in at about $450 to $500, which is going to be about $300 to $250 cheaper than the CR920, you're going to get a more reliable purchase out of the holster, but you're going to get a more reliable pistol as well. With the CR920, we had some initial problems, and then Shadow Systems sent me a barrel to replace, and we still had a couple of bobbles here and there afterwards, which sadly kind of knocked it out of my carry rotation just because there's so many guns on the market, I can't really trust one that isn't 100%, so it was out. The Glock 43, however, is unbelievably reliable. Even after my slide, which I was a little concerned about, I do have another slide, so it's not that big of a deal, and I have a 48 slide, which also fits on this frame, but it is unbelievably reliable. Thousands and thousands of rounds through this gun with maybe 1 or 2 ammunition related failures, much less than the CR920, and it is much more reliable. It also happens to have a longer and more proven track record, not only for the gun itself, but the company itself also makes a plethora of extremely reliable handguns that are used in military and law enforcement service. The Glock 43 is actually used for law enforcement backup guns all the time as well, so it has a very reliable track record. So $300 cheaper, more reliable, and in my opinion, even shoots a little bit better. Let's check out the trigger here and see. Now the Glock triggers are about 5.5 to 6 pounds generally. You can see here the reset is a lot better on the 43X, allowing you those fast follow-up shots as well. Now both of them will take all of the accessories that the other one will for the most part, and both of them will fit in the same holsters. So not a problem there. That's the kind of nice thing about the CR920 is you're able to get essentially a Glock 43X with a shorter grip with the same capacity. The downside is for some reason when you shorten the grip, you lose the reliability. The other thing I do want to mention about reliability is that this is a sample size of 1 and this is a sample size of 1. That being said, this is a well-proven track record, and in all fairness, I know a lot of other people, including some of my friends and some of the other reviewers that I know, that have also had reliability problems with the CR920. That being said, the CR920 just came out, And the Gen 4 Glocks and the Gen 5 Glocks, and I imagine previous generations as well, had some growing pains when they came out, and they fixed them, and they became a very reliable platform. The CR920 may do the same. Not only you might get a reliable one, but in the future they might get more and more reliable the more the company makes them and makes generational changes. So that's one thing you have to remember, is that it is a sample size of one, and this is one of the first guns that they ever made. I bought them right away. So keep that in mind in this review. That being said, $300 more reliable. It is what it is. So as far as accuracy goes, as you can assume, since they have the same sight radius, they can take the same sights, and they have essentially the same trigger, they're pretty much the same accuracy. But as far as speed goes, I would argue that the Glock 43X is a little bit faster, just because I said before, the bigger grip allows for a little bit more control for most people. That being said, for some people, especially with small hands, probably doesn't make any difference. And the last thing to keep in mind when you're talking about capacity is going to be the fact that you can also purchase shield magazines for this gun that will allow you to have a 15 round capacity, and they look like this. So you can actually pick these up, and they will increase your capacity even higher that of what you can get out of the shadow systems for your $450 gun, essentially eliminating the main pro of having the CR920. Now the downside of the shield mags is some work and some don't. I've actually had 3 of these that worked really well, and then 2 that didn't. So you got to decide whether or not that's right for you. Personally, as far as a carry gun goes, 10 rounds for me, for the most part, is enough, especially with a spare magazine, of which I have several. This is actually the ammunition that I carry right here. It's the Critical Defense 115 grain, just because that's what I like to have out of shorter barrels. I like Hornady ammunition, so that's what I go with. Overall, though, I think 10 rounds that come out every time is better than 15 that come out sometimes, which is why I would pick the Glock over the CR920, and that's why I picked the stock mags over the shield arms. If you want a Glock, buy a Glock. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Peace up at your local homeless shelters, and remember to recycle. I'll check you later.